y'all. Today I'm going to show you how to harvest lavender for dried bouquets. We've gotten a lot of questions about how we harvest all of our lavender we grow here at PepperHarrow to do them for drieds. So today I'm going to show you tips about how we do our harvesting and how we bring it in to do the drying process. The first thing I look for when I'm getting ready to harvest specifically for dried bouquets is to make sure not all of the buds are open. As soon as the buds are open on my lavender, it isn't as good. I am going to take some of the budded lavender that does have open buds, but for the most part, I'm trying to pick a plant that has closed buds so that it stays perfectly. If your buds are open, they're just more prone to falling off when you do the drying process, but when they're closed, they really keep their color and keep their buds on after they've been dried. So that's what I'm looking for here. You can see how nice and tall these stems are. So I'm going to take and bunch all of these stems together on the side here. You can see I kind of just took the bottom. I bunched it together in a nice handful. And now I'm going to take a sickle. This is like a scythe sickle thing that I got online. This is the quick, easy way to harvest lavender is with one of these things. You can also use snips and you can also use scissors if you don't have any snips handy. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to cut. I want to make sure that I don't cut too far into the wood. So one little whack and I got a nice handful of lavender here to be able to take inside to do the drying process. So I just cut it off with the scythe and I'm going to make a little bit of a pile here because I'm going to dry a lot of lavender for dried bouquets. These are really great for fall. You can see how lovely the buds are and the fragrance is incredible. This is Grosso, and Grosso is actually known for oil production, but I'm actually going to take and use my Grosso buds just for dried bouquets. And I really like Grosso because you saw how super long the stems were. It makes it really easy to harvest out really tall, long stems of lavender that are absolutely gorgeous to be able to be used for dried bouquets. Now that I've harvested out my lavender, I'm going to head in and show y'all how we do the drying process here. Now that my lavender has been harvested, I'm ready to bunch it up for drying. And you can see my little drying wall here. We've already bundled up lots of lavender and we're getting ready to do some more. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is take some of my lavender out and I'm gonna put it into a little bunch in my hand. Just picking an arbitrary grouping. So I usually try to make it like the A-OK sign, about the thickness of my index finger with my thumb around, and that's about the size that I do my bunch in. The other thing I do as I'm looking at my bundle is to make sure all of my stems are about the same height, and I look at it by the blooms themselves. I try to push down. If a stem is too long, I try to push it down, or if it's too tall, I completely pull it out and just tuck it back in at the side. But I like all of my blooms to be kind of generally around the same length so that it looks consistent when we get ready to do the drying process. The other thing then I do is I take the bottom and I actually strip off some of the greenery. So I'm stripping off just a little bit of this bottom greenery. You can do it stem by stem. For me, it's just not fast enough. So I tend to do it with the whole bunch and I strip off the greenery off of those stems and pop it off. Taking off some of that greenery will help the drying process. It will ensure that your greenery does not start molding. And the other key when we have it dried is to make sure there is adequate airflow, which I'll show you here in a moment. So I'm just gonna get the rest of this greenery off. Like I said, it'll just help prevent any kind of molding issues we could potentially have. But honestly, I'm not going in stem by stem and taking off all of this greenery. I'm just getting as much of it as I can off when I go to put my rubber band on. So that's all I'm gonna take off. For this next step, you'll need a rubber band. So I have a little rubber band here and I actually have a pair of floral snips. So I take my floral snips and I usually just trim the bottoms and make sure that those are all even before I go to put my rubber band on. So the bottoms of my stems are all even and looking really pretty. I'm just taking off a couple more pieces of greenery. How I put my rubber band on my little bunch that I have here is I grab a grouping of 2 or 3 stems. So I've done that, and I just wrap it around my bundle, and then I kind of wrap it back on the start where I had grabbed those 2 or 3 stems. That's the floristry way to do it, so that when you get ready to take your rubber band off, it just slips right off. It also helps if you're doing lots and lots of bundles like we are, that it makes it not hard to do, you know, like a twist tie with your wrist. It makes it much more easier to put it on. So this is my dried bundle. I'm now going to go grab a paper clip. I'm gonna slip the paper clip up into that elastic band, and I'm gonna hang it up on my wall here. If you don't have a wall or anything fancy, you can suspend it from the ceiling, you can hang it off of a curtain rod. It just needs to hang upside down. And the key is to make sure that you can get in and get it dried as soon as possible. As you saw, I just cut these stems and I brought them directly into the barn here, and I'm bunching them up to hang immediately. The longer you wait to bunch them up, the more risk you have of the stems going a little bit wonky and not being exactly straight. Because this is fresh, the buds are gonna dry directly down in the direction that I want them to. They won't be all crazy. So this is gonna be extremely beautiful when it's dried and ready to go. To keep my lavender nice and fresh, we keep a small fan circulating air to help keep it nice, fresh, and absolutely beautiful. I hope y'all enjoyed today's video about how we harvest lavender for drying here at PepperHarrow. It's a pretty simple process, but once you know the tools that you need to harvest out quickly, hopefully it's a big game changer for a lot of y'all. If y'all like today's video, please join me for our next video where we talk about 5 uses for dried lavender. It's gonna be my next follow-up video after this. If you're new today, subscribe, smash that subscribe button, and do us a big favor and hit that like button. Thank y'all for joining today, and happy growing.